Right, hello everybody. Hopefully everybody can hear me. Welcome to your business continuity plan COVID-19. Whilst we just wait for some people to join us, we'll just have a quick look at Zoom. I think more and more people are getting familiar with Zoom as they're using it for all sorts of things like pub quizzes, etc. But for those of you that aren't familiar with Zoom, this is what the control panel looks like. On the black control panel bar at the bottom of the screen, you can use the Q&A button to ask any questions as we go through the webinar today. I'll try and cover off as many of those questions as I can in the time allowed, but if we run out of time, I'll make sure to contact you afterwards. There's also a chat button where you can send a chat message. However, I would ask that if you've got any questions that you use the Q&A button just so that the question doesn't get lost among some chat. So just so I can check that you can all hear me, if you could just put in the chat something, whether it's yes, I can hear you, or where you're sitting at the moment, whether that's at home or what city you're in, that'd be great. There we go. Oh, that's all coming through. Great, people can hear me. If you can't see the toolbar at the bottom, there's the chat button. Try hovering your mouse over the bottom of the Zoom window and then click on the chat icon. Hopefully everybody should be on mute, so we won't get too many interruptions from that. So that's the Zoom stuff. So welcome everybody. Thank you for giving up your time today to listen to this important webinar. Obviously appreciate that these are unprecedented times, great uncertainty and concern for everyone. Obviously we want you to know that we are here for you, albeit remotely, to give you whatever support we can to get through these difficult times. And I certainly hope you'll find our time together today valuable. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Ian Weir of Weir Associates, where quite simply we see our core purpose is to make business owners' lives better. And hopefully after today's webinar, we've gone some way to make everyone's life here a little bit better by helping them decide what actions they need to take to get through the current situation with the least amount of damage as possible to themselves, their family, their team, and their business. So with that in mind, we're here to share with you some practical things you can do to mitigate the impact of this current COVID-19 pandemic on your business and family life. As we kick off, I just want to give you a thought for the day from GFK. When written in Chinese, the word crisis is composed of two characters. One represents danger and the other represents opportunity. The two Chinese characters here are we and G. Regardless of the fact that JFK, he wasn't entirely correct in his translation, but this mistranslation is now widely spread. It's even used by some native Chinese speakers, believe it or not. So what we're faced with today is most certainly a crisis, but at the same time, it is a time of real opportunity for some people. An opportunity to take a leadership role in helping you and your team at the time of greatest need, to be proactive in communicating with clients, or to make a plan for more sustainable and resilient business, or in the worst case, a plan to exit your business with the minimum negative impact on you and your team. So here's what we're going to cover today. Firstly, I'd strongly encourage you to take some notes, in particular write down what actions you're going to take after today's webinar, because if you don't take notes or write down your actions, I can pretty much guarantee you that you'll forget them. So today, we're firstly going to cover some mindsets that you need to get yourself into, and you can use to stay positive and get yourself and any team members you have through this crisis. We'll then take a look at what your plan should look like. We'll recap and update you on the latest guidance on the announcements of support from the UK government. Then we'll talk about some actions you could take after attending this webinar, together with several options of how we could support you further, including details of a 4-week COVID continuity programme that we've got. And finally, we'll answer any questions that have been submitted via the Q&A button. So, to get us all in the right frame of mind, I want to share with you the most powerful business model I've ever seen. It's called OARBED. I use it constantly, and in times of crisis, we basically have two choices about how we can respond. We can act above or below the line. Below the line actions would go something along these lines in the current situation. We could blame someone else for bringing a virus into our country. We can make excuses why there's nothing we can do about it. We could even deny, we could go into denial that there's even an issue, and in so doing, putting ourselves, our team, and our business at greater risk. So that's below the line thinking, which is where we don't want to be. Or we could act above the line. We could take ownership that we can, we must do something to protect ourselves and our business, even if that means closing our business. Be accountable. Recognise that we're accountable to our team and our clients at their time of greatest need, and take responsibility for protecting ourselves, our team, our customers, and our business from these difficult times. The fundamental mindset here is that we have a choice, and we get into the victor mindset and not the victim mindset in these times. So make sure that we're staying above the line. So if you want to be a victor, stay above the line. You can get your oar, jump in a boat and start going somewhere. Or if you want to be a victim, you can stay in your bed with a duvet over you and wake up when it's all over to whatever you've got left. As well as acting above the line, we also have to consider who we need to be in these times. In other words, our personal brand and identity. Excuse me. So I want to share with you the be, do, have principle. If we're not too careful, we could start acting like this. When I have got through these pressing client matters, I'll be able to do things like make a plan, get through this and talk to my team about what all this means for them, so that I can be a great leader of my business and my team. A far, far better mindset to have is the other way round. So in order to be a great leader of my business, I need to do things like update my plan, get proactive with my team and my customers during this time of crisis, and then I will have the most successful business I can in these difficult times. So this mindset comes from Zig Ziglar. And basically he said, you've got to be before you can do, and do before you can have. It's another great mindset to get yourself into. Be, do, have. Definitely worth reminding yourself of that each day. The next mindset is one from Sir Richard Branson, and serves as a great reminder as to where we need to place our most energy right now. So thinking about who we need to look after in times like this, first and foremost, it's about you as the owner of the business. But we also need to think about our team, and we also need to look after our customers, and we need to look after our business. So what we find as owners are that all of our energy is split between the team, the customers, and the business itself, with very little time to look at ourselves. Richard Branson gives us a very useful model to follow. So he says, clients do not come first, employees come first. If you take care of your employees, they will take care of the clients. So if we have a team, even if these are contractors or subcontractors, make sure as an owner that you're doing whatever you can to look after them. By looking after the team, they will be well equipped to look after your customers. You might, for example, talk to your team about a pivot in your sales plan, your business to cope with these challenging times. You might start offering a new product or service, and the team can pass that message on to any existing and new customers. So if you pivot your sales message and your team look after or find new customers, then those customers will look after your business. And if this new sales plan is in place, the business will look after you as the owner. You know, I appreciate this may seem a bit oversimplified, and some of you won't even have a team. But the point here is it all starts with you as the owner, and that if you act above the line, remember you need to be and make a new plan now. It should start with your team, as they can look after your customers, etc. So don't get overwhelmed. If you don't have a team, the plan needs to start with your customers, who will then look after the business. And we want to help to build this plan with you as a business owner. So starting with you, looking at the Richard Branson model, let's talk about what you can do to improve your resilience right now. So your well-being at the moment is critical. Remember, put the oxygen mask on yourself first. Make sure you stay healthy, get as much sleep as you can, keep your exercise going, and get support if you need it. Select your information sources carefully and try to minimize time spent on social media about this issue. Stay calm, stay connected with friends and family, and most of all, stay positive. Focus on the needs of your family. Their health and well-being is extremely important at this time. Make a plan for how they can be supported, especially if they have to go into isolation. A very empowering thing that you can do is a personal budget. This doesn't have to be complex at all. It can be as simple as totaling your expenditure from the last month or two to identify your monthly personal costs. From there, identify where you can make savings, the non-essential things at the moment. Every saving you make takes pressure off what the business then needs to provide you to keep you going. But don't cut costs for essential utilities, you know, especially if you're working from home like most people who are still working now, because a strong internet and reliable internet connection you know, is a must if you're going to be working from home. Likewise, think about your personal asset planning and planning for your family. Things like making sure your personal insurances, life and income protection, wills, memorandum of wishes are all up to date. Make sure that you and your appropriate family members have powers of attorney in place. Just briefly, there are different kinds of powers of attorney to think about here, but basically, if you're over 18 years old and currently have the mental ability to make financial, property and medical decisions for yourself, you can arrange for someone else to make those decisions for you in the future, should that need arise. The two types of legal authority, there's a property and financial affairs lasting power of attorney, which allows people that you've chosen to make decisions on your behalf about your property and financial affairs. And then there's a personal welfare lasting power of attorney, which again allows the people you've chosen to make decisions on your behalf if you're unable to make those decisions yourself. So things like your daily routine, washing, dressing, eating, medical care, whether it's moving into a care home or life-sustaining medical treatment. Hopefully nobody is going to require that. But it's generally recommended that you set up both the personal welfare and property and financial affairs lasting power of attorney at the same time. And many people do this whilst reviewing or revising their will. And obviously now is a good time to make sure you've got these powers of attorney in place. And if you do have them, review who you have appointed in the past and to make sure that that person is still capable and willing to act in that manner. So your team's resilience, your team members are, if you've got a team, also getting worried about job security. The government has stated that there will be job losses. Be open with your team, share relevant parts of your plan with them, and be honest about the potential impact this pandemic will have on your business. If there are to be job losses, ensure you obtain legal and HR advice on the best way to handle the restructuring and redundancy process. It's likely that we're going to remain in some form of continued lockdown in the coming weeks, and who knows, maybe even possibly months. Decide what additional resources you need to provide your team. If you haven't already done so, I think most people probably have. Consider how you can best utilise technology to maintain team communication, and ensure that any members of your team working from home have carried out a workstation assessment of their home work environment. And make sure you have your COVID-19 policy in place to keep your team safe, and let them know what support is available to them, and we'll cover government support later. So your clients, the support you offer your customers now will impact the support your customers give you in the future. Customers need to be reassured that you're still operating and that you're taking specific measures to mitigate their exposure to the virus. Your policy should cover the steps your business is taking to protect your customers. Share this information with them to offer reassurance that you're taking every practicable step to reduce the risk and protect both your customers and your team. Review your terms of trade and update the terms to reflect your changing business practices. Share your terms of trade with your customers and highlight any key changes that you're making. In particular, review your payment terms and delivery terms if you deal in goods. Remember to enforce your terms of trade at this time. Don't let customers avoid paying you, as this could have a material impact on the sustainability of your business to get through this. And just as we mentioned earlier, put the oxygen mask on yourself first. It's essential that you make sure you have sufficient cash coming into your business from your customers. Cash is the oxygen your business needs to survive, and there's always things you can do here. So suppliers, to improve your cash flow, make a plan for dealing with your suppliers. Pay arrangements. Wherever you can, negotiate new pay terms with your suppliers. If you're dealing in stock, if you can pay up front, ask for prompt payment discount. If you don't have sufficient cash flow to pay up front, ask if you can pay over a longer period of time. Ask if it's possible to hold stock and consignment, where you only pay the supplier once you've sold that stock. Purchasing policies. Discuss with your suppliers their supply chain and the measures they're taking to make sure that supply chain remains up and running. Ask about their contingency plans for what may happen if deliveries can't be made or supplies can't be obtained. Consider whether you need to order additional stock at the moment whilst it's available, if you think it's likely to become scarce in the coming months, and reduce your current minimum reordering levels, and consider whether there are some items of stock that you shouldn't really reorder at all. Return of stock. Review your supplier contracts in regard to the return of stock. Discuss whether you can return excess stock that isn't selling. Ensure contracts are updated if any terms change. And if you can't return stock, then consider discounting slow-moving stock to convert it back into cash, convert it back into that oxygen for the business. And whatever you do, do not reorder that same stock that you're discounting. Contracts. Review the contracts you have with suppliers. Is there a clause which would allow you to cancel orders or change the terms in this current crisis? If you can't meet the terms of any of those contracts, then seek legal advice and negotiate with the supplier. So basically, review all your key contracts, especially like with landlords. If you've got vehicles, if you've got equipment, look at all the terms of them. You may find that you need to renegotiate significant terms, but don't assume that these contracts cannot be renegotiated, as your current cash flow and ability to meet financial obligations may be significantly impacted. Some of these key providers will be prepared to renegotiate terms, especially landlords. I've heard some incredible renegotiation stories already. One of the most important ways to improve your business is to shorten your cash conversion cycle. In other words, get cash into the business quicker. So let's take a quick look at an example of a wholesaler. Obviously, we're going to talk about stock here, but for service companies, just think of stock as your WIP, your work in progress, and the payment of stock is equivalent to your payroll, paying your employees for the work that they've already done. So in this example, the wholesaler buys stock from suppliers, and on average, he must pay the suppliers 45 days after buying the stock. The stock doesn't sell the moment it comes into the warehouse. Some stock sells quickly, other stock takes longer, and eventually some stock has to be discounted to get it to move at all. On average, their stock holding is 60 days. When the stock's sold, credit terms are provided customers, but a number of customers aren't observing those terms, and on average, it takes 60 days for customers to pay. So now we can calculate the cash conversion cycle. So it takes 60 days average stock holding plus 60 days to get paid by the customers. That's 120 days. But then we get 45 days credit provided by the suppliers. So if we take that away from the 120, that leaves us with 75 days to convert those inputs into cash. In difficult times such as this, we need to ensure that we have a plan in place to shorten this cash conversion cycle. This is a process that we'd certainly recommend you do as part of your business continuity plan. So using numbers from your most recent management accounts, we could help you work out the above numbers and calculate your cash conversion cycle. From there, we can then discuss with you how we can work together to shorten this cash cycle and free up more cash. For example, if your turnover was 500,000 a year and you currently had debtors of 50,000, if you could reduce that cash conversion cycle by 10 days, then that's going to be worth nearly £14,000 to you at the moment. And, you know, I'm sure everybody would agree that that'd be cash that a business like that could really do with right now. So part of completing your business continuity plan is to work out how to free up as much cash flow as possible by looking at your cash conversion cycle. Another area of focus needs to be on your business 101 cycle. In these difficult times, as we often tell you, there's a massive difference between profit and cash. Profit is what you pay tax on. Cash is the oxygen your business needs to survive. What's so important here is that as well as improving your cash conversion cycle, you make plans to maximize your profit and at the same time finance your business properly. So let's just walk through this business 101 cycle. So starting at the top, as an owner, you introduce cash into the business to buy assets. You may also borrow cash to purchase assets. Those assets are used to generate a profit. How you increase profit is to improve revenue or sales. Very difficult in these challenging times, but still possible. Increase margin or efficiency or trim some overheads are also other ways to increase profit. So now is a very good time to be looking closely at potentially new revenue lines, potential new customers, or a pivot in your sales strategy, or what you can avoid, or what you can do to avoid losing existing customers. At the same time, you ought to be looking at how you can improve your margins via efficiency gains, better purchasing, reduction in errors, wastage, or simply discontinuing with products or services that have a poor margin. Once you've derived your profit, you need to turn that into cash. Profitable businesses can and do go bust at times like this. You need to be looking at how you can maximize your cash flow using strategies to get paid quicker, reduce stock or work in progress, or by negotiating better payment terms with your suppliers. Now is not the time to be slow or lenient on debt collection. We need the money to keep spinning around in the economy. Likewise, you need to be very careful about reordering any stock. Can you operate with less stock, or are there items that are likely to be in short supply? Other areas to help improve your cash flow are through better terms with your financiers. You can go on to interest only, for example, on some of your loans. That may be a possibility, but we'll cover a bit more on that later. And likewise, there are many tax concessions available right now so you'll want to make sure that you can access them, and we'll cover them later. So that's a very quick run through of the Business 101 cycle. So we talked about the cash conversion cycle and the Business 101 model. So let's take a look at 7 ways to grow your business. Some of you may have seen this before, comes from the growth equation. Only this time we want to use the model to find other areas to focus on that might reduce the negative impact of a downturn. So 7 ways, client retention. What can you do at the moment to delight the clients that you have at the moment? Many of them will also be struggling. So stay in contact and see how you can hold onto their business wherever possible. Lead generation. You should also be looking at new avenues to attract potential new customers. Increasing your marketing using cost-effective methods such as social media could be a great way to attract new business. Now is a time to really be getting your message out there. Prospect conversion rate. Make sure you're making it easy for people to buy from you as possible, obviously without giving your value or products away. So can you offer delivery or an online ordering option at this time if before people had to come and physically visit you? Can you deliver your services remotely using one of the many tools out there like we are today for this webinar, like Zoom? Transaction value. Can you encourage your customers to buy more from you? Are there supporting products or services that they're not aware of at the moment? Have you spent time and analysed who buys what from you? And identify further sales opportunities within that matrix. Transaction frequency. What can you do to encourage customers to come back more regularly? For example, locking in their next purchase order, next meeting at the end of a current transaction. Or maybe if your work is more of a one-off nature, asking for a referral for a new customer at the end of that transaction. Reduce the cost of sales. What can you do to preserve your current margins? Can you reduce errors or rework? Get a better price from your suppliers, or focus on the product or services that are giving you the greatest margin. And finally, reduce overheads. Which costs can be removed from your business altogether now? I think everybody's probably had travel, entertainment reduced, but if you've got vehicles in your business, there's maybe things that you can do around them, etc. So business bank assistance. Often one of the highest overheads in a business can be interest costs on its loans to financiers. And if you add the capital repayment on top of the interest required in loans, this can be a massive drain on the business's cash at this time. So here's a list of ways the bank or your other financiers might be able to help you. So, they might be able to just increase your overdraft facility, give you some extended trade credit, asset finance funding. Maybe you've got some assets in your business that you could refinance rather than selling them, and access some cash that way. Or maybe you've got a requirement to buy an asset at this time, but you don't have the cash in the business. Loan repayment holidays, deferral interest only. See if the bank will extend the lending period of a current loan. They may be able to help you short-term hardship loans, if you're waiting on government assistance. And obviously there's mortgage holidays and then business credit card options as well. But part of your business continuity plan should be a discussion with your bank or financiers about how they can help you. Obviously, as an independent advisor, we can talk to you first about best options for you before you go to speak to them if you want. Insurances, whilst most business insurance policies are likely to have exclusions for pandemics, so the current COVID-19, it's still important to review your insurances. Theft, loss of property, lots of empty business premises out there at the moment. So, just want to make sure what you're covered for. Your liability and your professional indemnity, make sure that they're all up to date and that you're covered should somebody want to make a claim. Key man insurance, what happens if something happens to one of the key people in your business at the moment and they can't continue. Employer's liability, likewise, if something happens to one of your employees working from home, are you covered? Credit insurance, what happens if any of your customers go bankrupt, go into liquidation? Have you got a credit insurance policy there that would pay out in the back of that? It's important to check that your insurances are all up to date. And again, this is an area we can offer some independent advice about before you contact a broker or insurance agent. So now I'm going to just quickly go over the government support and tax considerations. The most recent sort of updated guidance and new knowledge is around the job retention scheme, so furloughed workers, and also the business interruption loan scheme. So I'll go into them in a bit more depth. But just to start with the deferral of VAT to the end of the financial year. So this is for VAT payments that fall due between now and the 30th of June, can be deferred until the end of the tax year. So that's basically VAT returns with a period ending up to the end of April. That payment for April would be due on the 7th of May, so that can just automatically be deferred. But however, please note it's the payment that's being deferred, not the VAT return. So you still have to file your VAT return. Changes to sick pay. Sick pay is now available from day one. Those who follow the advice to stay at home and who can't work as a result are eligible for statutory sick pay. And as an employer, you'll be able to claim back 2 weeks of SSP. The self-employed can access the equivalent of 2 weeks of SSP via universal credits now. Coronavirus job retention scheme. So this is the furloughed workers. So this allows UK employers to access financial support to continue paying part of their employees' salaries where they would otherwise have been made redundant because of the coronavirus crisis. All UK businesses are eligible for the payment of 80% of the furloughed employees' wage costs. And they've clarified exactly what that is. So that's up to £2,500 per month, plus the employer's national insurance and the minimum employer's pension contribution under auto-enrolment. Employers must designate affected employees as furloughed workers and notify them of their change, then submit that information to HMRC via the portal, which should be up by the end of this month. Employers can choose whether to top up the payment to 100% of the furloughed employees' wages, and the employer must have been operating a PAYE system, and the employee must have been on that payroll as at the 28th of February. So anybody starting with you after the 28th of February is not eligible for this furloughed support. The grant is available from the day the employee was made furlough. In certain circumstances, these payments can be backdated to the 1st of March, but that would basically be if you had made somebody redundant on the 1st of March and took them back in your payroll. You cannot make somebody furlough now and then decide to backdate it to the 1st of March. Employees have to be furloughed for a minimum of 3 weeks and cannot do any work for that employer, but can work for another employer whilst on furlough if their employment contract and their current employer allows it. And one of the clarifications that came out the weekend was around directors, particularly including sole directors. They can be furloughed if they've been impacted by the current crisis, but they are limited to only carrying out their minimum statutory obligations for their company, e.g. filing documents at Companies House and with HMRC. They cannot carry out any commercial work or provide any services to or on behalf of their company whatsoever whilst on furlough. The coronavirus business interruption loan scheme. So loans to businesses which are interest-free and fee-free for 12 months. So the rules around these changed on Friday, and now no personal guarantees now for loans of up to $250,000, so 250,000. For loans above this, a personal guarantee may be required for the amount over the 250. So if you were going for 300,000, the personal guarantee would be for the excess, so the 50,000. You can apply for one of these loans directly now instead of having to be assessed against the lender's own products first. But the business must demonstrate it has been impacted by COVID-19. It has used all of the other government schemes available to it to preserve cash and be seen as a viable business after we are through this crisis period, i.e. be able to make repayments. Loans are being offered generally in the region of up to 2 times the annual wage bill, or 25% of turnover. Before the rules were updated, less than 1,000 businesses had been successful from some 130,000 applications and inquiries. So hopefully that success rate is going to accelerate. So if you applied before Friday's announcement, you might want to consider looking at your application and reapplying now the rules have been updated and more is known. Business rates holiday, this is for retail, hospitality and leisure businesses for the year, so they've got no business rates this year. Then the business rates grants, so basically if your business operates from premises that pay little or no business rates due to being eligible for small business rate relief, then you'll receive a grant of £10,000. Businesses in the retail, hospitality and or leisure sector with a rateable value of less than 51,000 will be eligible for a grant of up to 25,000. The self-employed income support scheme, up to 80% of the average monthly trading profit, capped at £2,500 for 3 months, to be paid in June this year. So this is for self-employed people with trading profits less than £50,000 in the 18-19 tax year, or less than £50,000 for the 3 tax years 16-17, 17-18, 18-19 as an average. So if somebody became self-employed in the 19-20 tax year, at the moment they are not eligible for this scheme. There's been a small increase in working tax credits and universal tax credits. So the standard allowance and the basic element allowance in working tax credit are both increasing by £20 per week on top of the annual uprating, and that's for 1 year. And like I said before, the self-employed can access the equivalent of statutory sick pay should they need to via the universal credit system. One thing I would just make everybody aware of is that the grants being offered, the job retention scheme and the self-employed income support scheme, these are all taxable income. The support is being offered to cover some of the costs of running your business, so you cannot also get a tax deduction for those costs that these grants are covering. And obviously any loans or deferred tax payments under the VAT deferral scheme or via HMRC's time to pay arrangements still need to be paid at some point. So that's a quick overview of the current support. So next steps, we've set out for you the mindsets you need to have, get yourself into these difficult times, what you need to do to look after yourself, your team and your customers. And we've shared some ideas for how you can improve your sales margin, profit, cash flow, even if that improvement is a slowing of the speed of decline at the moment. And we've shared in general terms what support is available from the government and other sources. So now it's essential that you decide what you're going to do. Clearly, doing nothing is not an option. Now's the time to put the oxygen mask on yourself and make a plan to get through this crisis. Even if that plan involves closing your business, you're far better off making that decision sooner rather than later. Part of that planning is to surround yourself with experts who can help you, like ourselves, your bank, your legal advisors, HR advisors. They're all there to help you should you need it. And remember, stay above the line and live into the be, do, have mindset. Focus on what you can do and what you can control. With this in mind, we've developed a business continuity plan and guide, which I'll show you briefly now. You can get a copy, you can get yourself a copy of the plan and guide by filling out the feedback form at the end of this webinar. So I'll just quickly show you what it looks like. There we go. So business continuity plan. So obviously, like I say, starting off with yourself, your resilience, your own well-being, looking at your family, your personal budget, making sure that you're protecting your personal assets. And after we've looked at you, it's about supporting your team, if you have one, making sure that you've got the policies in place, making sure that you've got the lines of communication open, that you have continuity of work. There may be people whose roles have changed, need to change in the current environment. It may be that you have an appraisal system and you need to update some goals and KPIs for some people. Obviously working from home, making sure that everything is in place and that you're protected there, and flexibility around that working from home. Looking at financial support, see if there's anything there that you could access. And if you do have to do some restructuring or potential redundancies, looking at that side of things. Then supporting and retaining customers. So again, making sure that you've got your prevention and response policy there. Are there any changes to your services? How are you going to deliver them? Services, products, terms of trade, do you need to update them and given the current situation? Are you planning and offering incentives to retain any customers? And obviously a communications plan with your key customers. And then the flip side of the customers, obviously your suppliers, pay arrangements, review and negotiate those suppliers. If you hold stock, then your ordering policy, have you got a right to return stock? Look at contracts, make sure that they're updated where they need to be. Then, looking at your business in more detail, cash flow forecast, make sure that you can manage through the current period and that you're aware of what you need to do. Look at, how you collect cash in the accounts receivable process, how you pay cash in the accounts payable. If you've got stock, what stock you have, what you should try and get rid of. Do you need to get a loan to help you through this at the moment, or maybe even to invest and get something out there? So look at your debt and capital, look at your overhead expenses, look at your gross margin, sales level. Have you got any unused assets, equipment that you could get rid of, sell, or have you got any assets that you could refinance? Look at bank assistance that's out there. Review your insurance policies, look at all the government support package. So it's all in here, business continuity plan that we can provide you with. So hopefully you can see my screen now. Hang on, I'm just going to double check that. Share. Yes. Sorry, I couldn't see the green bit around that. So there we go. You should be able to see my screen again now. So how we can help you, obviously challenging times, and as I've discussed, our recommended strategy is to complete a business continuity plan and implement it. And that's why we have developed the plan and the guide to help you do this. I'm currently offering 4 options. We've got a 4-week COVID continuity program. Meet with us online weekly for between 60 to 90 minutes every week for 4 weeks to review and finalise your continuity plan and then put it into action. This will give you peace of mind that you've got an action plan in place and maximising all the support options available to you, and that you know your current financial situation and how you're going to manage through the crisis. One of the biggest causes of failure in business is failure to implement. And by meeting regularly over the next 4 weeks, we'll make sure that you stay on track with implementing that plan. Second option is that we could meet online to help you create your business continuity plan, either as one session of 4 hours, or we could split it over 2 shorter online sessions. Advantage of this approach is that we'll be able to make sure you get all the entitlements to support that are available to you, and we'll also believe that combining your expertise about your business and our expertise will result in a far better plan than had you done it just yourself. The third option is that we share the plan template and guide with you so you can complete the first draft of the plan, and then we'll have an online meeting with you for 60 to 90 minutes to finalise that plan with you. Obviously, this option would suit people who feel comfortable doing plans themselves and aren't currently inundated with other things to do right now. Obviously, the risk with this approach is that everything else going on right now, you may not get around to doing the plan. The fourth option is that we share the plan template and guide with you, and you do it yourself. Obviously, our concern with this approach is that whilst it's free, you may miss out on opportunities to maximise some tax and other entitlements, and there may be opportunities to improve your cash flow that we could help you identify together under one of the other options. We've reduced our normal fees by at least 50% on all of these options to help support you as business owners, as we appreciate it's difficult to commit to spending money at this time of crisis. But most importantly, it's about making your plan and actioning it as quickly as possible. And we are here to help you. We want you to be able to claim your maximum entitlements to government and other support when available and without delay. As the more businesses that survive this crisis, the stronger our economy and our local community will be afterwards. So, questions? Okay. So we just got a couple of questions. Can you please provide a rundown of the specific report available from the government again? Obviously, very conscious of people's time at the moment. So I'd suggest that you look at the COVID-19 section of our website, which we're constantly updating as further guidance is released. And if you or anybody else is unsure about a particular situation, then by all means get in touch with us. We've got a slide with the contact details in a moment, so you can certainly contact us that way. And we've got another question of what exactly is involved in your 4-week program. Okay, so yeah, basically meet online every week for up to 90 minutes for 4 weeks. Before the first meeting, we'll send you the templates for you to prepare the first draft of your business continuity plan. Or alternatively, we can help you do this under the second option as well if you wanted. We'll then review and finalise your plan after that first meeting. And then the next 3 weeks will focus on the 3 most urgent actions from that plan. So whether, I don't know, that could be maximising all the support that's available to you. It could be brainstorming ways to pivot your business and get some income into your business, look at your cash conversion cycles and things like that. Right, we've just had another question come in. Is there any advantage in submitting my tax return early if I intend to pay in January? Very good question, and certainly something that we will certainly be advising our clients to get their tax returns done early. And the reason for that is that you then are fully aware of what your liability is going to be, and you can start planning for that, making sure that you have enough cash to pay that tax return when it falls due. At the moment, the tax returns for 2020 have not been delayed. Whether they will be in the future, who knows? The one thing that has been delayed around that is the payment on account that was due on, or will be due, would have been due on the 31st of July. That's now delayed until the 31st of January. But I would say certainly the sooner you can get your tax return done, then the sooner you will know what your liability is for the 31st of January, and you can start planning around how you're going to meet that liability. Okay, well, I think those are all the questions at the moment. If anybody has got any more, then by all means reach out afterwards. Just as a parting thought, I thought I'd share this quote with you. Anyone can lead when the plan is working. The best lead when the plan falls apart. So thank you for making the time to attend the webinar today. I appreciate everybody's time is very valuable right now. And I hope we've given you plenty of ideas to think about and some clear options of how we can support you during this crisis if you feel you need that support. But please make sure you have a new and better plan to get through this difficult time. So there's my contact details. I'll leave them up for a minute or so, but thank you once again, and please stay safe, everybody.